This is Infection, the survival podcast, recorded live on Tuesday, May 16th, 2017, episode 122. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Infection, the survival podcast. Infection is your source for the latest information on survival video games. We bring you the latest news, reviews, updates, and more each and every week. My name is Nick Craig. At Nicholas M. Craig is my Twitter. InfectionPodcast.com is our website. Thank you so much for joining us. Beside me, coordinated shirts this week, Brian. How are you?
Yes. Totally not intentional.
Sure.
Hey, everybody, if you want to find me at... I was telling Nick, I sent him my Snapchat of my outfit this morning to make sure we coordinate.
Yeah.
If you want to find me at Boise Computer on Twitter, you're more than welcome to go check out my blog, biteoftech.com. That's BITE of tech.com. Mostly Linux nerdy stuff for hosting, but more than welcome to go check it out. And of course, go check out our website, infectionpodcast.com. On the right-hand side, we've got our Discord channel. So if you want to click join on there, it'll connect you up to Discord, let you communicate with us throughout the week. People playing games, up to 50, 60 people in there at any time playing games throughout the week. So if you want to get some Battlegrounds in or ARK or anything else, you're more than welcome to go in there and ask people, join one of the channels and get a game going. Also, we have our Steam group. If you're looking to get notified throughout the week on our Friday night game night, when we start our Tuesday show, if you join our Steam group, you'll get a nice little notification once or twice a week. And that'll let you know when we're getting ready to do something live. So it's really easy to do. And also make sure if you don't follow us on Twitter, you don't subscribe to us on YouTube, all those different things, I encourage you to go do that. And it's all on the right-hand side of our website. So
we have a very special show tonight, Brian.
Yes. Yes, I'm very excited to introduce from Studio Wildcard, which develops ARK. We have Kayd Hendricks, and he is the senior technical gameplay designer. So that's a very long title, which probably encompasses a lot of things
we could put in there, but at some point it just becomes too much of a mouthful.
That's a very important title.
At yes. So at Studio Wildcard, how long have you been a part of Studio Wildcard?
I have been with them since pretty much the beginning. I remember getting the call from my boss, 2.5 years ago, forever ago, it feels like, and being, hey, we're going to make a game about dinosaurs, you in? And that was pretty much all I needed was dinosaurs, and it was really, really cool. I remember the first time I downloaded a full copy of the game and sat down and opened up the development kit and got to just pop a character into a big island. It's not our island, but it was an island that we'd just been using for scale testing and stuff. And seeing dinosaurs, very rudimentary dinosaurs, but seeing them stomping around and attacking each other and stuff like that, it was kind of surreal. And then it was awesome, and then it continued to be awesome.
So I guess before we get into what's going on with ARK right now, what's your background? We love asking this question. Do you have a background? Did you go to school for computer science or in the field? Or what's the story with that?
My background, I was going to school for astrophysics. I was going to become an astrophysicist. Wow. And I took a vacation down in Mexico. And I had been staying in Mexico for probably about 4 months or so. And I got hooked up with a company that wanted me to come on board to do remote testing with them. And so I was just remote testing for their game for a while. And eventually I kind of took over that group and started up a couple of side projects, like developing videos for content releases. I would create scripts for them and shot lists for the people who were doing filming, and we'd go through all that. And then we'd release these kind of narrated previews of upcoming patches and stuff like that. And right before I left Mexico, they offered me a job working on site. And how could I turn it down? It sounded awesome. Video games? Yes, I do that all the time.
So you play video games all the time. What's your favorite game? Right? I mean, that's a tough question. Favorite game?
That's not a tough question.
Okay.
My favorite game in the whole world. There's a little bit of a fight, but not really. Baldur's Gate series, CRPGs. I'm sure that either nobody or everybody knows what those games are all about, but they are incredibly heavily narrative driven. The writing is phenomenal. They are pretty much idyllic in my book in terms of overall storytelling games when it comes to mixing gameplay with narrative. Planescape Torment is another one of those games which is way more heavily narrative based and slightly less systems and gameplay based. It's still got a lot of that, but easily my favorite games.
So a lot of people probably don't realize this, but this game only came out when 2014 is when you guys started developing it, which isn't really that long ago. I mean, when you look at how long most people think of things, did you guys have any idea that or not really that it would be successful, but what did you expect from this game?
So
did you have any expectations of this could work, this could be popular?
Well, we knew that the game was going to sell. I mean, going into it, there was this very strong feeling internally of, we have played this game in what form it's at. We know that people are going to enjoy this because we enjoy it. And we all come from a background of loving and playing games. I mean, it's hard to sit down with a game and like it, especially if you're working on it. But to like it a lot and enjoy playing it while you work on it, I think is a very telling sign that other people are going to enjoy it as well. That said, I think the most impressive part of it was that when we were getting ready for launch, we had a number of discussions about, okay, so what kind of scale are we going to actually be looking at here? Like, what kind of servers do we need? How big do these servers need? How many servers do we need? What kind of audience are we going to have to actually support when this goes out? And we were all projecting things like, yeah, we'll probably get like 10 or 20,000 sales over like the first 48 hours, something like that. We're going to need a lot of servers, but we're not going to need a huge number of servers. It should be fine. And so we went to AWS and we put up some servers and we were ready for things to happen. And then we sold almost 200,000 copies in the first 24 hours. And had absolutely no preparedness for it. Like it was, there were a couple of us who were kind of poking the networking guys going, you know what, we've been following this on Twitch. We've seen kind of what the energy around this is. We're going out with Jurassic World coming out right around the same time. There's going to be a lot of excitement for this. We might want to scale up a little bit. But nobody was really sure. And then we went 10 times our estimate, and me and our lead networking engineer ended up spending probably the better of 2.5, 3 days on nothing but caffeine, getting servers up so that people could play the game. It was an absolute nightmare of panic and, oh, goodness help us. Like, so many patches went out, so many bug fixes. We were totally overwhelmed by it. And it taught us a lot about expectations. And you think that that's kind of a lesson that most game developers have already learned and that we would have learned from them. But there's this really interesting balancing act of, okay, we know what our costs are going to be. We know what our demographic is. Like, we have all the data here that says we probably shouldn't expect this to be too outrageous. And then the data's just wrong, and you can either over-prepare and end up spending a lot of money and a lot of time that you shouldn't have and taking that hit, or you can under-prepare, and that has its own set of challenges and problems. But one of those problems is much nicer to deal with than the other. Mm-hmm. And so we accepted the under-preparedness and were greeted by legions of adoring fans and had to work really hard to earn their trust right off the bat, because we had lots of problems because we didn't expect to get hit by so many people. And so to have, 2,000 to 3,000 messages show up on your board the day of release and having to triage, find out what are actual issues, what's just people who don't really know what they're doing, or what's not an actual issue. And it was crazy.
Now, it's interesting because we've seen how we follow a whole bunch of early access survival games, and we've seen the progress, how long these games take to get from launch to a lot of these games come out, they do a couple commits and then it's all over with. Yep. How long did you guys put in before the game, and how many before the game was released for the first time, and how many of you was there developing?
So we started out actually as a very, very bare bones team. Mostly it was just like technical proofs and stuff like that. Tried to do some work in Unreal 3 to see if this game could even exist in Unreal 3 because we were all a lot more familiar with that than we were with Unreal 4, and learning a new engine is complicated and it takes a lot of time, and adapting to the new engine can be difficult. It did not work in Unreal 3 at all to any. This game could not exist in Unreal 3. So we switched over to Unreal 4. And for most of the early development, like the 8 or so months prior to our early access release, we probably had like 12 to 15 people working on the game. I think that's about the size of it. We had external teams that we were contracting with that did things like handled our dinosaurs and doing like the animations and stuff. We had, I believe, 2 or 3 external teams, one in Egypt, one in Colombia, one in, I think Italy or something like that. But the core team was about a dozen or so people doing the vast majority of the technical implementation, the design, the concepting, the like engine work, all that.
So what have you grown to now? Because you started out at that small number. Have you guys really grown to a huge number? Because I mean, people look at your company and the game you put out, and you would think, man, there's got to be a lot of people behind that.
I wish. No, we're probably sitting at about 30, a little over 30 people now. Our external studios that we're working with have decreased in size as well. The big difficulty, and we are legitimately struggling with this, not even going to sugarcoat it. When you go from a small company, especially a small team of people who have worked together and who iterate very quickly and very effectively on something, when there's no bureaucracy, pretty much everybody's ahead at the table, and you throw something out there and we roll with it and see what happens, or we don't and we talk it down right there. Like, incredibly agile to, okay, now we have a game that's been live for a year or a year and a half, and it's been, it's grown to millions of people and multiple platforms. You can't keep being that small. There just aren't enough people to do all the stuff that needs to get done. If you scale up quickly, there's a huge risk, and I've been through this before, and we were not going to do it again. Mark my words, we were not. You run this huge risk of kind of destroying the culture and the agility of the company when you scale up real big, real fast. We have had the luxury of knowing our product very, very well and having a team that can iterate on that product very well and very quickly. So we have been able to be picky about who we bring aboard. We can screen better. We can know whether or not these people are going to fit in with our in-office culture, our development structure. We have to be really, really careful about that, because one of the biggest benefits that we can offer somebody working on a product like ARK is that while we ask a lot of you, we are very generous in return, I guess. Job security is very, very high once you're on board and you're working with us. We offer great benefits. Like, it's a really great place to work, and being able to retain that is paramount, because if you lose it, the people who are already there, and especially with this team, who are a bunch of just insanely skilled people, making them uncomfortable, putting them out, changing the culture can have a really negative effect on the whole company, and you can't do that if you want to survive. So we've been growing slowly. We are making sure that we keep a handle on who comes aboard, that they are a good culture fit, that they have the technical skill that we need. It's been tough, but we're working on it, and we are scaling up. Absolutely, we have to. There are ever increasing demands, but it's not going to happen fast because there are a lot of dangers that come with that. You can't just, oh, look, we're big now, we got money, hire everyone and fix problems. You can't do that. You will destroy your company faster than you can blink.
Do you work remote, or do you have an office that you go to?
All of them. I am in Seattle. I work at the office as much as I possibly can. This is where the content team is located. They do all of the art, all of the creatures, animation, environmental assets, level design. Like we do the vast majority of that up here. We have a team in Florida who are the technical team, so to speak. They do programming, implementation, game design, that kind of stuff. I kind of function as a bridge for that. And so there are times when I'm just not in the office or sometimes days because we have like an upcoming patch for PlayStation or for Xbox, or we're just working on iterating very, very hard with the QA team on some large patch that's coming out. And I need to dedicate all of my time and attention to those things. And if I'm in the Seattle office, I'm going to be distracted by not unimportant tasks, but tasks that aren't high on my priority list compared to getting this in the hands of the players and getting it out and making sure that it's of a high enough quality that we're okay saying, okay, it's out there, it's good, and then iterating on the feedback that comes out of that. We put a very high priority on that, and so there are definitely times when I will just I will work from home for several days at a time just to make sure that that's all good, that it's all locked down, that I'm not being distracted by any other things, because I get pulled between a huge subset of what we do at Wildcard, and juggling that can sometimes be a bit of a hassle. But that kind of ties into that with great responsibility comes great power kind of thing. The company is very, very good to me. Everybody is totally cool with the fact that I bounce around a lot. Like they give me a lot of leeway and they allow me that comfort of sometimes I'm just, up until 5 or 6 in the morning, making sure that everything is good to go for the next day. And I go to sleep and I wake up 3 hours later and I don't want to or have time to make a hour-long commute into work and then do all that stuff and then take forever to come home. And yeah, they're very, very good to me in that regard. And they're good to everybody generally in that regard. But yeah.
And one thing I've seen that's always surprised me about how you guys have released is that you will put out a patch or you'll make a change, and then if something isn't right, I've seen within an incredibly short amount of time, you guys releasing a patch for the patch, like a hot fix. I've always been curious how in the world you are able to do that with how complex your code base has to be at this point. So how in the world can you find such a little thing?
So that is, it's tough because we deal with kind of this public perception of us as kind of a side effect of being in early access. A lot of the stuff that we're doing is the private side of game development, I guess I want to say. Most of the stuff we're doing is just stuff that happens in every game development company. The consumers just never see it. And so our reactiveness is largely supported by the fact that as soon as we put out any content, we make sure that everybody from the internal QA team is ready to triage any issues that come up. We scour social, Twitter, Facebook, Steam forums, our own forums, like Twitch streams, everything. We're everywhere. And we're making sure that as soon as we see an issue, we get it back to the engineers immediately. And our lead engine engineer, our lead graphics engineer, like the studio director, like everybody who is technical is in a call at release time with the QA guys, direct access. Hey, look, we found a thing. Here's a call stack for it. We are working on reproducing it. We will let you know as soon as we have the steps for reproduction. Our guys who work QA are very, very adept at realizing the underlying cause of an issue rather than the surface issue. It's very easy to see a bug like, for instance, we had a very, very long-standing bug where people's health bars would end up empty and never refill after they died or something like that. And it's very easy to look at that and go, oh, great, I respawned again. My health bar is empty. Wildcard, why won't you fix it? It's super obvious. Why don't you just make the health bars full? But understanding why that health bar is not functioning properly is a whole other can of worms, and it requires somebody to sit down and test all these different permutations of what could possibly be causing this to happen find the one, reproduce it reliably, and then get that to an engineer who can then reproduce it using whatever their steps are so that they can debug it in the code base, setting breakpoints, all that kind of stuff, and then go, okay, here's where the actual issue is, and then fix it. It might be like a one-line change, but that's the hard part, is finding that one line. And our QA guys are very, very good at going in and reducing the complexity of issues that seem either simple or mind-boggling on the surface to very simple steps, and then getting that to engineers. Once an engineer has it, generally it's relatively easy to fix an issue. They can see it in code. Code is all just logic. It's a system. Either it works or it doesn't. And once you've found where it's not working, fixing it is generally a pretty easy process. After we get a potential fix, we can build binaries for it in like 20 minutes, get those binaries out to whoever is testing it, make sure it's fixed, and then push the binary, and that whole process can take 60 minutes. Sometimes it can be faster than that, where we'll see an issue and a call stack and go, oh, I know exactly where that is. Boom, 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 3 lines of code, and it's done, and we have a new build in 30 minutes that fixes it. Like, it's a combination of having direct access to the technical team, like no filters between QA and the lead engineers who can get deep in the engine and make meaningful changes anytime we launch a patch. That line of communication is open, and we couldn't do what we do if it weren't for that.
Now, you mentioned early access. I want to get your personal thoughts on early access. I'd be curious on what you thought of it 2 or 3 years ago, and maybe how your opinion on that has changed looking at the current status of the survival or early access game market now.
It's actually funny because before I joined up with Wildcard, like literally just in the couple of months before that, I had been talking to some people who had early access games and discussing with them the possibility of working with Valve or working inside their company or doing something to create a bridge between company and the early access platform itself. Somebody with enough technical knowledge and enough like internal knowledge of the whatever the product was, that they could communicate with the early access, the people participating, and forge a line of communication that would allow for early access to suck less. Before ARK, I had looked at early access and really thought there's a potential here for developers to work directly with the people who play their game and make a better game out of it. I've been studying game design for many, many years now and actively a part of it. And yeah, I know everybody out there who doesn't like some of the things that are designed in ARK. Sometimes things aren't perfect. A lot of times things aren't perfect. You got to make a lot of decisions. You got to do a lot of things for a million different reasons that don't allow you to make your dream things happen every single time. That's just the reality of game development. But the real core there is players, when they get a game, always turn that game into something different. And by that I mean players choose how they play your game. And as soon as they make that decision, the game is a little bit less yours and a little bit more theirs. And when you look at what the players are making out of your game, you can discover a better game. It's happened with, I think, pretty much any early access game, and definitely a lot of times it has happened just in general. I mean, you look at something like Defense of the Ancients or League of Legends and Dota 2, they came out of Warcraft 3's custom map making, which came out of Warcraft 3. And that was because the people playing and making custom Warcraft 3 games had decided that there was a very, very interesting element of tower defense and MOBAs inside Warcraft 3. And that even goes back to StarCraft to some degree, because I know that those existed in StarCraft. But Warcraft 3 brought them into the broad public view, I think. And realizing that the players who play your game will decide what that game means to them opens up a lot of avenues for you to go, okay, so here was our plan. This is what we expected out of our game. The way that the players are choosing to play deviates from that. We have a choice to make now. We can support the way that the players are choosing to play the game, or we can just forge forward with whatever our view is and continue making whatever our idea was for the game. And there's a balance that has to be found there, but there is also a communication, a bridge that needs to be made, and I think this would help every early access game out there. Interacting with your community and having somebody who can look into what the players are doing and what they're feeling and how they're playing your game can inform game design without compromising the entire vision of your game. And we run into conflicts sometimes, absolutely. I just recently got done doing a bunch of iteration on flyers in ARK. Yes, a lot of people hated it a lot. And it was very contrary to the way that a lot of people were playing the game. But after releasing it and after tweaking a little bit, because I will admit wholly that not only are they not quite where I would like them to be and not quite where a number of people would like them to be, and we're still going to iterate on that in the future. There's just so many things going on, and please forgive us for not being faster on this, but where they are now is a better place than where they were before. Our concurrent user counts went up and stayed up after that particular patch was released. The people on public, Twitch, on the general public facing, hey, these are people who are actually playing the game and not people who just have opinions on things without getting in and actually testing them, have all been positive to that change. I won't say all been, but the majority of them have been positive to that change. And so there's times when you have to bite the bullet and say, we've identified an issue that is contrary to what we want the game to be, and go for it and just do it, despite the fact that your fans may tell you that you are the worst people in the world. And then there's sometimes when you absolutely need to cave in and the fans are right about things. And we have absolutely said, you know what, we were wrong. We apologize. It goes back to how it was before. We'll address it later, or we'll figure something else out. And so that's where early access takes us, is to a dialogue with the players. And that dialogue has, I would say, in every respect, not only informed, but also improved the overall game that we are providing. Early access as a platform needs more people to use it as a tool for making a better game and communicating with the community, and less as a method of funding. I'm not going to name any names, but you're right. There are games out there that have hit early access and then gone silent. And I can't speak to why that is, because I don't belong to any of those companies. I'm not internal to them. I like to think that in general, as game developers, we don't make games because, oh, look, I can make money real quick and then run away to the Bahamas. We make games because it's a passion to us. It's something that you can't shake. You want to do it. You want to put something in the hands of people who are going to enjoy it. And whatever their problems are, I hope they work them out. But I would encourage them to open communication with their community more in any of those cases, because your community wants what's best for you because they are playing your game and they have enough passion to voice their opinions. And I know that everybody has an opinion, but you have to look at those voiced opinions as passion for the game, not as something that threatens your ideas or diminishes your product in any way.
Now, since you brought up the flying nerf, that you kind of stated with that you had a strategy of how you wanted people to treat their dinos. Are you guys thinking about other dinosaurs? Because you've started, like, for instance, you now have a healing dino, and you have dinos that are taking certain roles. Can we expect any similar changes with other ones maybe that are pre-existing to kind of bring them into more of that utility sense?
So that's the intention. We're about to hit our last content patch. This 258, I believe, is the last large content patch that we're putting out. From now, or from the launch of that, for several months, we are going back and we're literally just focusing on bug fixing, performance improvements, TLC, touching up things that we don't like in the game, reworking systems, and getting to older dinos, especially stuff that, I mean, you can very, very clearly see when we got more people and more bandwidth for creating better creatures. We started putting out all sorts of interesting new mechanics, all sorts of different gameplay elements into our creatures. Like, it becomes very obvious that we scaled up our design and implementation group by quite a bit. And so we do want to go back and do as much as we can to go through and give land dinosaurs as much love as we possibly can, because we don't have a huge number of flyers, and it's easier and less of a giant design and balance headache to go through and give them each their own niche, give them a role that they can play. So going back and doing that for the land dinos is a very, very large project. We definitely want to do it. It's on our list of things to do, is go back and either through balance or through mechanics or through stuff that we already have but isn't used in a system. Like, for instance, we have the ability to scale the damage that things do to other things based on which bone they're hitting. And bones are just an animation. They're a part of animation. They're things that make the rig move. But things like the Stegosaurus and the Triceratops have very strong plates. The Triceratops on its head, the Stegosaurus has the big plates on its back. And we can actually go in and make it so that incoming bullet fire doesn't damage you or the dino if it hits those plates. We can do that. That's super trivial to do. We just haven't had time to go back and do it. And that's just one of the broad number of existing systems that we can utilize better to make those creatures have a better role, either in PvP or in PvE. There's a lot of stuff that we can and are looking forward to do to kind of make things more interesting as we go forward.
All right, well, so let's get controversial. You cracked open the can of worms with mentioning the last big content patch. So, as everybody's been speculating for months now, ARK, we believe ARK is getting towards the end of its early access phase and into an official launch phase. Do you have a release date, or if not a release date, a release schedule in mind on how far out you guys think you are from full release everywhere?
I don't know if I'm allowed to say.
I mean, I'm not going to stop you, but
hey, whatever.
No, I
don't worry about those other guys.
The truth is that literally anything I say to you guys will get repeated everywhere on the whole internet forever.
That's fine.
And I don't want to make any promises, because if I make any promises at all, if I say anything, everybody will assume that whatever I say is the gospel as handed down by whoever hands down the gospel in ARK, and we will be held to that steadfastly, and it could be wrong. So I'm going to say I don't know, because I don't know exact dates. I just know that this one is going to be our last major content patch for the base game, and we are doing a lot of preparation for getting this out as a 1.0 release. It's not a we're done with it release. It's just a content complete release. Okay. After that, we have a lot of time that we're going to be spending polishing the game up, and I don't know how long that period's going to be.
So here's another thing that I've been really curious of, and we've discussed this on the podcast many times. How are you going to deal with the official servers post-launch? Are you going to do a wipe? Because you pretty much have gone an amazing amount of time without doing a full wipe on the official servers. and I know that you guys have got to be discussing this somewhere over in Kirkland. So what are you guys thinking as far as how do we, because I don't have a good answer for that. We brainstorm about it and there's no probably right answer. Have you guys come to any kind of conclusion of how to deal with official servers?
Unfortunately, you have now asked me 2 questions in a row that I can't answer. That one is, again, for legitimately the same reason. I can't, no matter what I say on either side. If I said, yeah, we're really thinking about wiping, then everybody would go, they're going to wipe the servers, everybody panic. And if I say, no, we're not, then they're going to go, they're not going to wipe the servers, everybody panic. And so I don't, if you want to try and get an answer that comes from somebody who can actually answer that question, ask Jeremy. He's on Twitter. You can tweet him. I don't know his Twitter handle offhand, but send him a message, and he might not ever respond to you. But that is the one person who could give a somewhat coherent answer to that question. I just can't. I don't. I know that when the time comes to sit down and seriously discuss it, I get to be at the table and talk about it, but I don't have an answer that I can give right now. It's awful, and it sounds like a terrible cop-out to just give a non-answer. But that's the truth of it, is that I can't say anything without it going horribly wrong, and so I can't say anything.
So let's
sure
play.
Your coworkers would love to be held accountable for it.
Let's play hypotheticals with this. Let's say if you had the choice, you were the ARK god. You were what would you say you would want to do if you were the executor and you say what I say goes? What do you think you would do? Because it's a tough answer. There's no, as you said, it's a lose-lose situation. Some
Correct.
people are pissed off, or another group of people are pissed off.
On the internet.
So what would you do?
If it were my choice, and I was looking at this entirely from, I have a product that I have to worry about. I mean, it's 60,000 plus people play this every day on Steam. We've got an active user base of like 1.5 million, 2 million people across all the platforms. When we release like into the official domain, we're going to have an unknown number of people who are also coming to the game new. If it were up to me, and this is a changeable opinion, I would wipe the servers. That's what I would do, because the vast majority of what has been done on our servers has been done under the pretense of not only people who have left the game long, long ago, but a massive number of bugs that are ranging anywhere from widespread duping, which we have wiped for once before, and then introduced a whole bunch of systems to track, and then we tracked and punished people again for it. And there have been so many issues that have caused the state of the official servers to become not great for gameplay, that have allowed for people to entrench themselves incredibly deeply and almost irremovably due to having unlimited supplies, due to any number of things. The health of the game, I think, could use it on release, but fortunately, it's not just my voice at the table, and the discussion for that will be far broader than just the things that I think. So we'll see where that goes. But I think that it would be healthy on a personal level. I know that there's a lot of people who have played the game for a long time, and having their stuff taken away from them is not great, and it would be personally painful and obviously publicly painful to do that. Mm-hmm. But as I believe has been said, there's no right answer to that. And I think that the people who have played our game for a very, very long time and continue to play it are the kind of people who enjoy the game for being the game, not for the things that they've accumulated over time, and that on the whole, they will come back to the game for the game and not because they had stuff. Maybe I'm horribly out of touch and I don't know our player base at all, but I like to think that that's not true.
Well, that's interesting, because that's the first time that's very interesting. That's the first time I've heard. That's the first time I've even thought of people care about the game more than they care about the stuff they've gotten over time. That's very interesting. Brian, I think you have a question.
Yeah. So here I do a lot of speculation on where I think you guys are going, because you guys managed to keep a pretty tight lip about it. Will Primitive Plus, the Center, or even Scorched Earth play a role in Ascension? Because everybody's speculating about Ascension.
At the moment, Ascension is what it is. And the current state of things is that they will not have any impact on what Ascension will be at our 1.0 content complete stamp. There's a lot of stuff that has yet to be revealed, story-wise, narrative-wise, and in a bunch of other ways. Scorched Earth will be important. Primitive Plus and the Center are non-canon additions, I guess. We don't view them as parts of the core storyline, not just because they were added afterwards and like doing an ad hoc tink tink tink, let's just nail this to the side there so that it's part of the story, is not super useful to us. It doesn't drive the narrative, and it causes a lot of complications, not just gameplay wise, because we have to justify that with actual gameplay, which expands the scope of what we're doing, and a lot of other stuff that is internal, I guess. I don't mean that like we don't want to tell you, but it just has to do with development and timelines and boring stuff like that. So no, the center and primitive plus will not be they're not important to Ascension or anything like that. The truth of the matter is that the core Ascension loop will be available to anybody who just buys the base game. There's just other stuff that will happen later that will involve the Scorched Earth stuff, and that will be tied into kind of a greater narrative bit that it's complicated and I can't talk about because
you actually kind of are somewhat answering another question I had, which was what is the purpose of Scorched Earth? because I know that I figured you had some sort of a reason, because you guys seem to, even with things you release, kind of are play testing certain concepts that seem to come into the game later.
Mm-hmm. So Scorched Earth was, and asking what the purpose of it is has a lot of different answers, but in general, Scorched Earth it informs an important part of the narrative, not only currently, but in the future, retrospectively, it will inform more of the narrative, if that makes any sense. We have obviously a bunch of dossiers and stuff like that on the Scorched Earth that tell more stories of different people who obviously are part of our overall narrative as well. So it, as I mentioned, it is tied into the overall story of everything that's going on, but its overall importance won't be completely obvious until later on.
Okay.
So I've actually got something here. We talked very highly of the way that ARK dealt with the mod program, and just a couple months ago, it was announced that they were going to be paying people to develop mods. And I think I know the answer, but I want to hear your perspective on this. Why did you pay people externally to build these mods instead of just having people that are maybe already working for the company or have already worked for the company in the past make mods?
Well, so there's a couple of elements to that, actually. Part of it is that we actually really strongly feel that the mod community is valuable, I guess I want to say. We saw this kind of a little bit with Valve and with Bethesda, them trying to do this like paid mods program that they wanted to do. And that kind of backlashed hard on them. And I think that was largely a framing issue and not a concept issue, so to speak. People, when they see mods, acknowledge excellence, and I think on the whole would agree that if a mod maker makes something that is really impressive, they should be compensated for their time. The question of who should pay the mod maker is a valid question, and I don't know if the answer is that people should be able to donate to mod makers, or that mod makers should be able to sell their mods, or if it's a program like ours where we invite mod makers to join our program and we kind of fund them to continue working on their mods. But the truth is that we're very strong proponents of the value of a modding community. We've done big modding contests before where we've offered large sums of money to mod makers for making cool things. We've hired mod makers directly out of the community to work on their projects. We legitimately want to create a space for mod makers to feel like they can more safely work on cool stuff for our game and invest their time into those mods Whereas I mentioned previously, hiring people is a complicated, expensive process.
Mm-hmm.
We can't just go, hey, we want to hire all of you guys. We can't do that. It's so much more complicated than that. Having them exist as paid modders allows us to kind of do that.
Yep.
While giving them the freedom to continue working on whatever it is that they're working on, as long as they continue working on it, if that makes sense. We think that the things that all of the modders in our program do are not just valuable to the game, as in when people play our game, they're able to also get those mods, and that makes money for us. We acknowledge that. Absolutely. Yes, their mods are monetarily valuable to us. And I think that as a whole, the gaming community, especially from the development standpoint and not from the community standpoint, would be richer if more companies embraced modding and gave up their kind of paranoid control over their intellectual property. They're not all that bad, but I think we all can name maybe at least one developer who has filed a cease and desist against somebody who was working on a cool mod or something like that, and an amazing idea was thrown in the toilet and will never see light because people were too worried about whether or not their intellectual property was going to be represented in a way that they felt was congruent with whatever their image is. And I understand the legal elements of it, especially when it comes to things like Bethesda and their fight with Mojang over the word scrolls. Like, that happens not because Bethesda actually thinks that Scrolls is going to infringe on them somehow, but because there is a either misconception or little known element to trademark law where it's possible if you don't defend your trademark from people who are potentially using it, that in the future you're not defending it can be used against you to show that you don't care about your trademark. So if you don't defend it, and then somebody down the road uses it in a legitimately infringing way, it can be harder to enforce that. Like, it's stupid law, legal stuff that gets in the way of people doing legitimately interesting things, but we don't protect our intellectual property a whole lot. Like, we give people pretty carte blanche to do whatever they want. We have people who like sell ARK t-shirts and sell ARK paraphernalia and all sorts of stuff like that. And you know what? Go for it. Like, if you want to do live streams, if you want to do a YouTube whatever, and you want to put ARK all over it, if you want to have an ARK themed party, whatever. It's the truth of the matter is that our game is out there and it's in the public hands. And for better or for worse, it doesn't do us any good to get into fights with them about how that IP should be used. So if you want to make a Pokemon mod for ARK where you replace all our dinosaurs with Pokemon, and you are the people who already did that, I wish you luck. Please do it. I hope Nintendo doesn't come barking at your door, because we're happy for you to use our platform in whatever creative ways you want. You can only add value to our game. Like, you're not going to so grossly misrepresent ARK somehow to some vast number of people that it's going to damage our reputation or whatever. It's just not going to happen. People have released weirder stuff than whatever your idea is already on the mod page, I promise.
Yeah, and I think that part of that openness is why people, I mean, you look at how successful ARK's been. You go to the Steam charts, it's always on the top. I think part of that openness definitely plays into that. A great example of it is Grand Theft Auto with all the multiplayer mods. It's time after time Rockstar has knocked on people's doors and said, stop developing this mod or we're going to sue you. You're going to take everything you own.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a total buzzkill for a lot of people. Kind of in the same vein of that, what's currently going on with Survival of the Fittest? And what's the status on that?
The most interesting and thematic way for me to put this is that Survival of the Fittest is currently sitting in a stasis chamber somewhere awaiting the opportunity for something interesting to happen with it.
Mm-hmm.
We're obviously leaving servers up and people can still play and they can do whatever they want with it. But we realized that we don't have the manpower or capacity to actively develop that right now. And I believe we've released the mod kit and stuff like that with Survival of the Fittest exposed so that if modders want to do stuff with it, they can. or at least we were talking about that. I don't remember whether or
I
not
saw
that
you
came to
announce it.
fruition. Yeah, it was out there at some point, and we definitely wanted to do that. So hopefully it's out there, and I'm not just wrong about something. But if modders want to take it and make something interesting, by all means, go for it. If you make something awesome, we will support you. People want to pick it up and play it, but it takes a different team and a lot more people to make that game into what it needs to be successful. And we have too many other things to do right now. So once we have a properly shipped game and we're looking around at what's going to happen next, I can't speak to what those plans are because I'm not high enough up on the food chain to make those decisions. But for now, it is in its stasis chamber, and if somebody else does something cool with it, or if we get the capacity to work with it in a better way, there's always a chance for us to come back and touch on it again.
Yeah, and I hope that should hopefully be enough to put some people at rest. That, you know, I'm sure there's definitely when I look at the current players, there's still, you know, a couple thousand, 1,000 people playing it, so those people are still loving it. So hopefully that's enough to hold them over. So as we know, ARK's made a whole bunch of money. It's got a whole bunch of sales. You guys are just swimming in it over there at ARK.
Yep.
with the great success of ARK, is the studio currently hinting at or working on or looking at some type of second title, related, unrelated? What's going on with that?
Right now, it is literally all noses in ARK. Like, nobody's peeking their nose up out of that. We want to get this thing to a point where we can say that we have gone and exited early access and we're happy with it. And the truth is that nobody is, at least as far as I know, and I'm privy to most things, nobody's really looking at what comes next because we need to get everything that is now done. And it doesn't really, like, there's no benefit in spending time on other things until ARK is complete, because that time is going to distract us from getting all of the stuff that's done currently, and it's been too long already. Like, we've had to push this thing back more times than we wanted to because we scoped up and because we wanted to experiment with things and we wanted to implement interesting things that the community wanted and all sorts of stuff like that. So wherever that goes,
that brings me right
be a question I can answer later.
So that actually brings me right to what I was thinking is the original concept of ARK and what has happened since. Like, what kind of scope creep have you guys had over the years from the original concept? Like, what was your original concept of what's this game going to be versus over the years that you said people said I want this and you guys end up putting it in? How much of that has changed until now?
So it would be impossible to quantify that in a direct way, but I can tell you that there has been a lot of scope creep and a lot of scope drop. The original game concept, and you can actually see it in the stuff that we provided. We did a GDC talk on early access and all the stuff that's kind of gone on with the company, and we have an example of our original pitch deck in there. And the pitch deck was very loose. It was a lot of broad, kind of generalized ideas about what we wanted. And leaving it that way and continuing to develop with a loose framework has allowed early access to be a lot more successful for us. I can name things easily off the top of my head that either exist now before we ever had even the smallest idea of them, and things that definitely got scoped down a lot because either the technical elements of it proved to be a hurdle that we didn't want to sink weeks and weeks into, or because time ended up being a little bit too strict on particular features. For instance, the Dodo Rex, everybody loves Dodo Rex. He was actually the creation of a couple of people. They were, I believe, a Russian pair of artists who thought that it would be really hilarious to combine those two things, and they did like a whole fake dossier for it. And we saw it and went, well, that needs to be in the game now. And that was about all of the thought that went into it. And so we found an excuse to put the Dodo Rex in the game. And totally unintentional, just a really cool community idea that ended up being in underwater bases were a thing that ended up being scoped down. And I know they're not what everybody wanted, But when we started to dig into the technical implementation of what would be required to do what we wanted to do with them conceptually, it was a nightmare of constantly trying to fight not only pre-existing code from Epic inside Unreal, but performance-wise, there were a ton of hurdles that would have taken quite a long time to try and get over, and performance is already not super great. So we're trying to limit the impact of what we do to that between here and our final release, because we want to make it better, not worse. And so we ended up having to scope down what we could actually do with underwater bases. There have been a lot of cases where it's just been, okay, so here's what we want to do with a given patch. Right around the start of work on that patch, we throw open a, hey, does anybody have any cool ideas that they'd like to see happen with this patch? And either we pull something out of the community, or somebody internal has something, or maybe there's nothing at all and just nobody has anything that we think is cool. The unicorn, for instance, that was added somewhat recently was kind of a last minute, hey, we got horses. Wouldn't it be great if we just had some unicorns? It's not that hard to do. And somebody went, yeah, unicorns sound cool. Bam, unicorns. Like it wasn't hard on implementation. It wasn't a large performance overhead. It was relatively simple conceptually. It took a very small number of art assets to make the unicorn do what it does. And so, yeah, absolutely. Throw it in. Why not? It's cool.
So what currently I see on your a little farther out section, you have DirectX 12. Is it the engine that's holding you back? Have you guys not gotten to that version yet? Or what's holding you back from implementing DirectX 12?
There's a lot, but less nowadays.
Big question.
Well, the big thing is that we have not. I know that there were a lot of things thrown around, and there were in order. There were a lot of things that, okay, this is what our problem is. Let's take a look at that problem. We've said publicly that this is what the problem is. And then 3 months later, that's not a problem anymore, but we've identified a new problem. And that's what our new problem is. And so it has probably sounded like we're a bit erratic or uncertain about what our problem is, or we're trying to pass the buck or whatever. But I think like maybe 4 or 5 months ago, I made a post on Reddit somewhere saying the real actual problem right now, and this continues to be it, but we are working on it. Our lead platform engineer has actually actively over the last couple of weeks been working specifically on asynchronous compute implementation in our current build of Unreal that will allow it to use DirectX 12 stuff. It's being worked on, promise, hand to God, but it has been a lack of engineering time available for working on it. DirectX 12 is wherever it needs to be. NVIDIA supports it driver-wise. Like, the real problem is that we have not had enough engineers who are qualified to work on it, who also have time to work on it. That number of people is incredibly small, and hiring someone with that kind of technical expertise is even more a challenge than normal hiring someone. So that hasn't really been a great option. We have hired, I think, 2 new senior level engineers in the last couple of months who are broad platform engineers. They can work on Xbox, they can work on PlayStation, they can work on the PC version, and they can do that at a very low level. But really, it's just been bandwidth for engineers who can do that. And because DirectX 12 is not only not something that we kind of promised with the core game, I know we were working on it relatively early on, but it wasn't like a, hey, look, this is a feature of the game that we're actually promising. And because the returns that it gets have shown in practical testing to not be as dramatic as everybody was hyping them up to be, it is substantial. It's still quite a large percentage of frame rate increase on DirectX 12, but it's not, oh my God, now everybody in the whole world on their 660 Ms can get 60 FPS on max settings in ARK. It's not that kind of an improvement, and so it's not been a priority over getting the game to a complete state, which is our number one focus right now.
Let's transition. I've got a quick community question for you. So
Sure.
We've seen this with a whole bunch of other games. So you pushed out a patch. It's got a huge problem in it. What is the policy for dealing with the community, specifically the early access community? We see a lot of games that they release an update, something is broken, and it's just like, oh no, everything's fine here. We'll just brush this under the rug. Nothing. Our game's perfectly fine. What's the policy? Do you guys have free realm to social media and have access to just go back and forth with people? How do you guys deal with that?
You mean like employees, like who's allowed to talk about what?
Yeah, like for example, if there's a bug that you're familiar with, are you allowed, and do you go out on Reddit or on Twitter and have a conversation with the community, or is that more of the community manager's role?
Policy is broadly open with there are a few people, including Jat and myself, who can go to other employees and say, shut up because you're not representing us well. I don't think we've ever had to use that except maybe 1 or 2 times. Mostly we just trust people to, be discreet and to represent themselves and the company well. But we don't tell anybody like don't talk about things because we need it to go through the filter of so and so before it hits the community because it might be bad. Like we don't do anything like that. I don't know anybody at the office or who works for us currently that is like, don't talk to people. Even like, I know there was some controversy with one of our guys who was like super sleep deprived and stressed out, and he said some mean stuff, and then we grabbed him and made sure that he went out and apologized and understood what he did was wrong and exactly why he's not why he can't behave like that. And so he got like properly reprimanded for that. And I believe he keeps his exposure on his part. Like he does this because he knows that if he gets in a heated situation like that, maybe he can't handle himself so well. And so he takes it upon himself to not put himself in situations like that. But we don't really tell anybody that they're not allowed to talk about things that are going on. But in the same vein, most of the time, most of the employees don't really feel a need to go out and do that because we cover it as best we can. I know that like me and Jat and Jen and a number of our QA testers and Jeremy, obviously, and Jesse, and a huge number of people I can name at the office have their own Twitters. They have accounts on Reddit. They have accounts on the Steam forums, and they are free to go discuss whatever they'd like. Most of the time, they don't. Most of the time, we're working on the game, and we don't go out and socialize. I will step out on occasion to talk about severe issues, important things that need somebody who's got more of a technical background or a deeper understanding of the engine or a deeper understanding of what we're trying to do with gameplay to clarify things. I work pretty directly with the team who issues wide-scale bans. I'm kind of the highest authority on, are we going to ban these people? What are the steps that we're going to take if like something dramatic needs to be done? If we need to do we're wiping a whole tribe out, that kind of stuff. I make sure that people have brought me evidence that is necessary to convince me and other people on the team that there is some wrongdoing going on. But I, again, and most of my time is spent actually working on the game. And so I will only pop out of my hidey hole when something important I directly need to address. And for the most part, we just let people do whatever they want on social media or on the community side. And if there's a problem, then the problem is brought up. It generally comes to me, and I talk with whoever the problem was about, and we come to some understanding. I mean, it doesn't have to be a big, huge, crazy issue. Sometimes people do dumb things. That's human. Like, that's what humans do. We've all made silly mistakes. We've all said stuff we didn't mean or been upset about something. And by and large, we try to make that expectation of our employees such that they don't do that. But if it happens, we make sure they know what they did wrong. We make sure that they are aware of how their actions impacted things, be it they put out a negative perception of us, or there's a news article now about how so-and-so is literally the worst person ever and made the company turn into also the worst company ever. Like, it's not the biggest tragedy in the whole world, but we make sure to take it seriously if and when it does happen. But people behave themselves. Most of us are actually adults and can avoid being baited into bad conversations or bad situations. The internet's the internet.
Yeah.
And we've all grown up on the internet, and we know how hungry the internet is.
And some people laugh at it, but
So-
it's serious stuff. I mean, we see how some of these people talk to all types of different game developers. It's no joke what level people will go to.
I think recently tweeted out an image of my inbox after the Fire nerf hit consoles, and it's literally like 70 or 80 emails from the same person. I removed his email and stuff because I didn't want to embarrass him specifically. But just the same person, all capital letters, just screaming at us the worst profanities that you could possibly imagine. And the truth, the real truth of it is that that's just a person who's really passionate about the game and feels wronged. And their feelings and their emotions are not wrong. They are correct to have those. It's just, there are other people who have to receive that. And if it was anybody but me, I would hate to think of the stress. I mean, I even feel it sometimes, especially when we put out something and there's a lot of negative feedback coming in, because the game is my baby. You know, I've been working on it for years. It means a lot to me, and so do the players. And so sometimes it's even hard for me, but I hate to think of anybody else receiving that kind of just anger and how they would have to deal with that. I happen to have kind of a history of working with people in the community and understanding and having to get to understand the underlying meaning of what they're saying. Somebody tells me that I'm, you know, Satan and I've ruined their game completely because I did something. I have to look past the raw emotion and see what the actual problem was, what caused them to feel that way, and try and see if there's a way that I can fix that in the future, or a way that I can help avoid those negative emotions in gameplay. But there has to also be a lot of understanding that the community and the way that they react to things is correct. It might be negative and it might be mean sometimes, but they're not wrong to feel that way. And knowing that, I think, is a very, very important thing all over the internet, everywhere. When somebody's mad and angry about whatever to whatever developer, anywhere, ever, please understand they're not bad people. They are emotional and they're feeling emotions about the game that you put out there for them to play, and you're instilling those emotions in somebody. And emotions are a good thing, even if they're not represented in a great way. So try and see past the emotion to what people are really trying to say and use that. They try and engage them with that, even if you can. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes people are just angry and you can't get past the angry. But sometimes you can make friends in the weirdest places, and you can make allies out of people who are extremely angry at you because all they want to do is be heard and have somebody who understands where that anger's coming from. And once you get past that, they can become great allies.
There you go. Brian.
And I think if they didn't think that your game was any good, I mean, if you put out a mediocre product, they wouldn't be so passionate about it. So in a way, it's kind of a compliment, the fact that someone is willing to get really so passionate about something.
We always
they're like, hey, I love this. Don't mess it up.
I always say that when I'm sitting here and dogging on a game, I mean, just fairly, we've dogged on ARK, we've dogged on H1Z1.
Absolutely.
It comes from a place of love. It comes from a place of, we want this to be the best it can possibly be. But in the same respect, if you act like a total idiot, I mean, you get what you get. But
it's just harder to take you seriously.
Yeah, for sure.
You get a few points off of your, okay, I'm going to take this feedback seriously and act on it. Dock it.
So, all right. So we're coming to the end of the interview. Thank you for the time you've given us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Let's say somebody played ARK a year and a half ago. They hated it for whatever reason. How can you pitch ARK today to that person that played it a year and a half ago? What can you say to them?
Oh, geez. If I was trying to convince somebody to come back and play ARK again, the truth is that it would depend a lot on why they didn't like it in the first place. But what I can say is that we have a very, very proven, very consistent track record of improving gameplay quality, adding content to our game, improving stability, improving performance, everything we have done over the last year and a half plus of development has put the game in a better state than it was before. And we do that with incredible frequency, more so than probably any other developer out there. And we haven't stopped doing that, and we will continue to do it. There's so much more to see. There are so many more things to do. The game is almost certainly in a far better stability and overall gameplay state than it was back then. If you play it for 20 or 30 minutes, you will almost certainly see that improvement right away.
There you go. It's as simple as that. Where can people find you on social media, and where can people get more information about the game if they're interested in that?
The game, Survive the ARK website, on our Twitter, Survive the ARK. You can find me at Kayd.Hendricks on Twitter. I don't use it as much as I should, but occasionally you'll see something interesting pop up there that I'm working on. And pay attention to Steam and pay attention to our website because we're always posting new stuff. That's pretty much where you go. We've tried to make that as centralized as possible.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate your time, and we hopefully will speak to you again soon.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, kid.
All right, Brian.
Take it easy.
That was great. I appreciate everybody over at Studio Wildcard who made that interview happen. A lot of great information, and as this game continues to move forward, as early access comes towards the end and the official release is out, hopefully we can get somebody back on the show to talk about that.
Yeah.
I know you have some ARK updates and some ARK patches you want to jump into. Do you want to do that now, or what are you feeling?
So let's go ahead. Should we do the start the game giveaway really quick?
Yeah, what do you got
first?
here, Brian?
All right. So let me go and get because if I start talking about it, people will start typing the code. So it's exclamation point giveaway. We'll do a 30 points raffle. And we are going to be giving away a copy of SteamWorld Heist. So SteamWorld Heist, I'll put a link to it. Put exclamation point giveaway in chat. And you will have a chance. We'll roll for that in about 5 or 10 minutes, and I'll get a nice little Steam link for you as well, so you can read up on the page. But this is one that's been out for a while, I think. It's about $15 right now on Steam, and it came out. Actually, no, it came out in 2016. So this one's been out for about a year now. So this is SteamWorld Heist, and I'll put a link here, and you can check it out. Exclamation point giveaway. There
you go. We did have a couple of ARK updates this week. Nothing too crazy in any of them though, Brian, right? Correct?
No. So this is a lot of, because I mean, he was talking about 258 is going to be their official, kind of last big patch that they're doing. So this is more of maintenance, kind of doing bug fixing up to that point. So 257.48, this came out on May 10th. So right after our last show, fixed issue with auto targeting. So there was a bug with that. 257.49. They fixed a server-side issue that was fixed incorrect collision on the center and various other miscellaneous map issues. And then they also fixed a timing-related issue with Dino uploads on cross-ARK transfers. So this was a server-side fix that they had to do. So that had a server update along with that. On May 15th, they had 257.499, where they fixed an issue with Ingram's not being learnable on official servers. And then they fixed an issue with downloading survivors and Ascension on unofficial cluster servers. Cluster servers are when you're able to connect multiple servers together of different game types to be able to transfer between those. Mm-hmm. And then 257.5, this was released today. This is client side. They added in support for localized Explorer notes subtitles in non-English languages. They said this will require actual translation being added for the Explorer notes, which we hope to include in the coming days. Before you'll see anything, though, translators can use this build to experiment and see the results of the Explorer notes localization in game. And localization is when you make multiple languages for text inside of a game. So yeah, that brings us to current. That's 257.5. On the 30th is when they're looking at doing the next patch. So that's going to be 258. That one comes with 5 new creatures, harpoon gun, 2 new hairstyles, and they said they're doing a lot of optimizations, memory reductions, just trying to make it more efficient at that point. So this may, as he said, maybe the last content patch that they're doing. So that's pretty much wraps up the dinosaurs, I would assume.
Yeah, we were so close to getting that date or that time frame, but
almost slipped.
Yeah, be aware with that. That is coming, and we look forward to that. Well, let's run into Battlegrounds real quick. It's nothing long. As I said last week, I was again. We say we are harsh on these games out of love. We hadn't had a Battlegrounds update in 2 weeks, and again, part of that was the charity giveaway. First week was we've been working our asses off. We need a week off, and then they had that big charity event the week after. But nevertheless, we are at early access week 8. And the update for that, and actually this is, as of right now, should be going to the servers. This patch was scheduled for today, and those should be going to the servers if they're not already there soon. And there are a couple of the notes that are in with this. It's nothing crazy, and they reminded people on Twitter today, or it was maybe earlier this morning, that hey guys, remember, weekly updates are for bug fixes and hot fixes, issues in the game. Our monthly updates are for content. And I think that was because they were seeing some backlash after being gone for 2 weeks, that they came back and, again, games like ARK release new stuff practically every update. It puts a game like Battlegrounds in a tough spot when they release it, when they haven't done an update in 2 weeks, and all it is a couple performance improvements. So the first thing here is slightly improve the FPS, where when there are vehicles near the character, there was sometimes a weird little FPS drop going on with that. This was a big one, and it was going to be a story. There was a lag switch guide that was floating around the internet for Battlegrounds, and what they are doing, and again, quickly, they jumped on top of it, followed it on social media, and have found some type of workaround for that. So they're not going to allow players to do that lag switch anymore, and they go through the steps of how they did that. A couple of things for the custom games. They fixed an issue that was causing the sound to break when there were too many vehicles in such a small area. You could possibly have that towards the end of a game or something like that. And then just a couple of quick bug fixes with this. Fix the bugs that cause characters to get stuck. Client crashes, getting stuck in different objects, crosshairs being visible when they're not supposed to be, just general bug fixes. And again, if you look at this and you're expecting to see content, well, first of all,
this isn't what their official.
You don't pay attention.
They released this one earlier than normal too. They usually don't release on Tuesdays, I don't think. And I saw a note out there that they said they released this one on Tuesday because they hadn't put out patches.
But again, you're an idiot if you're expecting content in this. You're an idiot, because they've said so many times, they beat people over the head with this concept weekly.
At the end of the month, I think, is
it's every month. Every month they do content, but these are just bug fixes and client fixes. So, folks, get it through your heads. You're not going to get new content, new guns every week. It's not going to happen. They've never put that expectation in place. I don't know where it comes from, but for whatever reason, people are all pissed off on
it's
Reddit.
ARK, because ARK does it.
I guess so. It doesn't make any sense to me why people are so upset about stuff like this. This is what I expect every week. Little bug fixes, client fixes, so on and so forth.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, is people are upset because they pretty much had what seemed like 2 weeks of downtime. Mm-hmm. They had a week after a crazy launch. They took 1 week of kind of taking a break, letting the developers take a break because they were just working like crazy. And then I think they had some sort of a holiday or something that happened that kind of, you know how holidays will take off pretty much half the week a lot of times. So it was pretty much a 2 week period where there wasn't a lot of, there weren't patches and there wasn't a lot of public posts about things. And man, this game still has only been out. You said it was week 8? Yeah, week 8. So this game's only been out 8 weeks. You got to give them a little bit of a break, I think. But who knows?
No, I agree.
I think that people are really hard on them when they said you won't see patches when we're doing things on servers as well. They don't promise, they're working on servers all the time. It's just when they're putting out client patches are set on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
So
I don't know where this idea ever came from. There was never this concept of, hey, new things.
They were
every
very
week.
clear about it in the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point.
big thing is them being transparent. They have been transparent, and they said, "Here's what we're going to do," and other than having the holiday and things like that, they've stuck to it. This is that official patch for bug fixes.
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly.
we'll see. I mean, in the next 2 weeks from now, they'll be putting out a content patch.
Yes.
So you can see.
And if we remember
that they're working on at that point,
if we remember back to the last content patch, it was massive. We had the vector got put in there.
Motorcycles.
Yeah, new guns, new vehicles. That's what we're now if the next big content patch comes out and it's nothing but fixes, all right, you have the right to grab your pitchforks, but at this point in time, you're just stupid. I can't put it. There's no other way to put it, Brian. There's literally no other way to put it. So, well, that's that.
Now, speaking of delayed patches, Conan put out another patch. It's been a little while.
Yes, it's been slowing down.
Had put a patch out, and so this one is their update number 26, and they put in. They're calling it the all new traps and placeables patch.
Okay.
And remember when they first released screenshots, we had talked about how inside of the bases that you build, it was cool that you could put tables and chairs and all these things. And so they're just making it so that you have the ability, and this fits a lot into the role play type of aspect. They're giving you that ability to be able to kind of decorate your base or your house in however you would like. So they added a lot of different objects. They said, that you can decorate your house, your camp, your castle, or even city. And it says, there's also many excellent mods, and this is another group that are pushing mods very heavily. They said there's a lot of other mods that give you a lot of other cool placeables as well. So, you shouldn't just rely on them for releasing these things, is pretty much what they're saying. Go out and download some cool mods that add maybe certain type of tables and chairs to the things as well. So, and then they added traps. So they have new defensive measures for your camp. So 2 new traps that you can get. They can be placed anywhere and will trigger if someone steps on them. However, they will not go off unless that player steps off again. So it's kind of like a landmine. If you step on it, you're good. But the second that you release pressure, it will go off. They said the player triggering the trap will have the opportunity to disarm that trap. So they said exploding traps will do a great amount of damage. Vapor traps create a cloud of poisonous gas and will increase damage the longer that you stay in the cloud. So this will be pretty interesting to see how these are done. And then they also said they made it easier to make mods. So they've been working hard in the background, making it so that people can make better mods in an easier way. So that'll be something that hopefully we'll start to see some really cool mods. I haven't really looked into the mods very much in the game, but hopefully we'll start to see some cool things that actually can really affect how the game is played. And then they said, they've added dozens of new placeables. So if you have a base and you haven't logged in the last couple of weeks, I would encourage you to get in there, try it out, log in, and just redecorate your base, because there's a lot of cool things that you can do now with that. And that's pretty much that patch. So there's a lot of decorations, and then the traps, and then fixing the mods, which you never know how much work can go in the background when they just say, making it easier for people to make mods. That's not just, run a program to optimize.exe. Oh, it doesn't fix things like that.
Yeah. What are you talking about, Brian? You literally we were just talking about, you just make a game, you just optimize, you just click the button, and the optimize button.
Yeah, it's like all automated.
It's right next to the save button in the file bar. You optimize and
I
save.
want to enhance my graphics. So once a week we run enhance.exe, and it just makes them better, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's all automated.
So that's something on here that I think people have gotten spoiled with, is in the whole alpha thing really pushes this, because people are seeing game development in real time. For many years, we were so used to people seeing a game when it was fully polished. I mean, it may have been in development for a year or 2 years or 3 years even, and then you see the very end product. And you missed all these things of them play testing things and putting things in and pulling them out, and just the pace that it goes. I don't know if this is necessarily a good thing, but that's something where we're seeing the pace as they're creating them. We're seeing the pace as they're put in, and I get frustrated when when you see that there's actual content being put in, and then people get frustrated and saying, oh, well, you need to have something every week. Well, that's where it's really good, where Battlegrounds came in and said, you know what, you're not going to get it every week. Don't put us under this crazy. And, you know, I think that's something that they almost need to do with Conan. Just put an expectation of, you know, we'll release new content once a month.
Yeah, no, I agree.
People want it every single patch. They just want to see something new, which is really hard to do.
Well, and you know, Conan specifically they've got an awful situation on their hands. They are looking at a unbelievably small player base compared to the number of sales. I don't know what the solution is for them, to be perfectly honest with you, Brian.
I think
really don't know.
They're going to have to just kind of trudge on for a period of time with how it is, and kind of rely on, because that's the thing, is they can't instantly put all these things in to make the game 100%. Like, it takes time, and they've got to just continually push it and get it to where, and then maybe at some point when, like some games will do, they'll kind of save up a couple of really big things and release them at once. Yeah. And that pulls the player base back in. Exactly. And I think that's what they're going to have to do, because there's not one patch that they can do right now that's going to bring all those players back, because there's too much and I think a lot of it has to do with end game. I think a lot of it has to do with maybe story, since so many of their viewers, or, you know, their players are all about the lore of Conan. I think that's going to be something, maybe if they introduce and start telling a story, that it'll bring a lot of those players back, because they kind of brought in a weird mixture of people that were in it, kind of like Friday the 13th is a very similar thing.
When is that coming up, Brian?
A lot of people. Couple month or two. I don't know.
Sorry, I had to.
I know I paid $40. We go on that. I paid $40, and if you bought it today, you'd pay the same amount.
Damn, Brian. Why do you get all upset about this stuff, Brian?
Because I want to. If I kickstart something, like, I want to feel like I got something special. You know.
I poked the bear one too many times. I poked the bear one too many times with the Friday the 13th.
Saul says a week from Friday. So.
Who cares?
Saul is our Friday the 13th hype man.
Just like never mind.
He's constantly just saying, all right, Friday the 13th, because he got us all into it.
He scammed all of us. Maybe, you know, I'm starting to think some members in our community may very well be being paid to hype up this game and to con all of us into buying it.
Yeah, Brian, spend your money on this.
Let's do this game giveaway. You know,
okay, yeah, we should do that before I get mad. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll roll for that. And congratulations, Manstand 3. Manstand 3 is our winner, so I will send you a gift link for Steam, and you'll be able to redeem that. So,
yes.
And it'll be in your other messages folder. So
now,
congratulations, Manstand.
Surprising to me, I guess, it's been a while since we've seen one. We had an H1Z1 Just Survive live update, that happened this week. This happened late last week. And this is a hotfix / just general purpose maintenance to Just Survive. It is an update, but it's again, it's a quality of life. It's fixing things that are broken. So, you know, there's not many details within this, but it fixed a server crash scenario, fixed several crash to desktop scenarios, and then, as they always say, and as they will continue to, I hope, say, ongoing anti-cheat / hack countermeasures. Now, the thing that is interesting to me, Brian, is I look at those are the three things. That's the hot fix. I look at those three things, and I have to think which one of them could have been the big. For them to push out a hotfix, there had to have been something big inside of that. I'm thinking it's the ongoing anti-cheat / hack countermeasures. Because the other two, there's plenty of crash to desktop scenarios. There's plenty of things that are crashing servers from time to time. I think that they found probably some massive exploit in anti-cheat, or found a way to stop a whole bunch of cheats that were relying on some piece of code. Relying on code to work, something with that, because you don't release a hotfix with just those three things. I mean, you could say every patch is doing things to help fix crash desktops and stuff. So
I don't know, but that's the thing, is Daybreak is famous for just saying ongoing, because they feel like they have to put it in every patch, because people, if they don't put it in a patch, they'll say, oh, you're not working on anti-cheat. And so I don't know. I don't think it's I don't think it's that. I think it was probably the crashing. I think that the people were getting crashed to desktops, and that's the reason they put out. Because I know that they are working on anti-cheat, but there's so few players playing Just Survive right now that I don't think they're really that worried about the anti-cheat at the moment.
Okay.
I think it's more of the stability and the crash to desktops, because that would be the main reason you would actually put out a hot fix, unless something really like a duping bug or something was happening that was really blatant. But I figured if it was a duping bug, they would have mentioned
exactly.
They'll usually not be afraid to say a duping bug.
No. I mean, they don't hide behind this stuff. So, yeah.
And these guys have been pretty open.
Yeah.
The Just Survive developers have been pretty open compared to how King of the Kill was.
Yeah. So,
I mean, I haven't seen them try to be cryptic in their messages or in their patch notes. It's just a lot of it's been fixes. So I did see, summer of this year, they confirmed it in the notes here. Summer is when they're releasing the strongholds and the new map.
Yeah.
So we can say what we think summer means, but that's got to be like a couple months.
Oh, I'm gonna say summer is probably October.
Even as late as October.
Yeah, I mean, before people pin me out as a complete moron, I understand that October is not summer, but this is a lot of content for Strong. This isn't some small little thing. This is a lot of content with Stronghold. So I would say, I don't see why. Hell, I'd even go as far as November. Things are gonna unless they're really, really far ahead, which is possible. But looking at those screenshots we saw a couple weeks ago that had dates attached to them, there was stuff in there from late March that didn't look too far along. So I think summer could be as late as
I don't
October,
know.
November.
Okay, so they did this when they released on King of the Kill. Remember how cryptic they kept it? I mean,
and then it never happened.
Not showing anything with the map. No, when they released King of the Kill map.
You mean the map? Yeah. I'm just looking at some of that concept art you showed me, and they showed unmodeled textures, and it was less than a month old. So that's my point.
I mean, you could texture those models in a week, though, is the thing.
But I guess I don't know. What do you write it down in the book, Brian? Get your book out and write it down.
All right.
I'm saying I'm going to give them till October before I start having a meltdown.
So we wrote this down last week, and you said July. So you moved.
No. That was King of the Kill.
No, you said.
No,
you said the.
Now I do look like a moron. Well, but it's so okay. No, so here's my question.
The new map, though.
This is
talk about the new map.
This is everything.
I said August.
Do you think the new map and strongholds are going to be out in August?
I think August. Yeah.
Do
you still stand by July? Because that's pretty close.
You know what? I love being wrong. Let's stick with July. I'll give them again. Okay, so we'll stick with July. I'll
put a star next to it.
Yeah, put a star and then put a November in there. Okay, it's just so I can reference that later if I'm right.
Okay, so I put a little side sub note there.
Okay,
November.
Good. But seriously, Brian, all joking aside, this is a huge update. This is a lot of content. This is a game. Okay, let me lay this out for everybody.
This is what's going to bring their game back.
This is them, for all intents and purposes, completely redoing this game. You're talking new map, new base building. Those are the two core main concepts behind any type of survival game. Is the map and what you can do. Where do you go when you're not fighting zombies or fighting somebody else? Those are the two main concepts. This is, for all intents and purposes, a complete redo of the general mechanics of what this game is and how it's going to work. So I can give them some leeway on this. Now, for example, if it was some stupid feature like zombie AI, not that that's stupid, but they should be able to get that rocked out pretty quick, I would not give them such leeway. But if I give them till October or November, I don't think I'd be upset with that, because I know damn well it should completely change the game. That's my theory and my concept behind it. But I mean, I look like a moron anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
And see, this is something where I really think that they're also going to start incorporating more of a story.
Okay.
Because that's something we've never had in this game.
Never.
I think they're going to kind of go for lore, or maybe telling the story, or telling a story. Maybe not the story of what brought on the virus, but they have hinted at that. They have the name of a chemical company. They have all those things that I think either they will totally leave that and say, that was so 2000 and whatever when it came out. Was it 15 or whatever? That concept is old. We're gonna start something fresh. Or I think that they will fill out the rest of that story. But I think that there is a good chance that they may totally drop the whole chemical company zombie thing and go a different direction with it. I think they're to that point to where it doesn't really matter. There's no reason to hold on to all that old story. No one cares.
I agree. Yeah.
So
I don't really
give
know.
some people things new to discover, because that's going to be the big thing is discover things.
Yeah. That's a valid point, Brian. So that's that, I guess. I don't really have anything. I don't really have anything else to say about it. It's just kind of.
I mean, they haven't put out any major content patches yet, and so I think they're just saving it all for once so they can have one huge update. Yeah. Hopefully, it's not super buggy.
Yeah, we're just sitting in a holding pattern like we've been for a while now. There's not really much more to say about it. Now, in terms of, I'm sorry, do you have something?
I was just going to say, with the King of the Kill.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're going to move on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to go into. Yeah, this is interesting. Brian, I know how much you love these skins, and I bet you would love. I mean, Brian, you talk about being ripped. You'd love this skin. Now,
and these creepy muscle pants.
Yeah. But let me say quickly before I go into this. I have many of times, and actually, Brian, I'm going to drag you into this as well. I'll drag you into the mud. I think you and I both said multiple times they need some incentive to push people to play their game. Now, King of the Kill, not so much, but just in general, some type of reason, some type of push for players to jump into their game. And this is a really cool idea. This is what they're calling the weekend challenge. And what they did with this happened last weekend. Starting at 12 a.m. on Saturday, so you could say Friday night into Saturday morning is when this thing started, through May 13th, at midnight May 13th on Sunday. It gives you the weekend. It gives you pretty much from Friday night until Sunday night to do this. What they were doing is each player who finishes in the top 10 of any game mode, solo, duos, or fives, you would receive one of the exclusive new skins that they were putting into the game here. And a couple of these things are, I'm trying to pull up a screenshot here. There it is. We've got this shirt with abs on it, a couple pairs of pants, and just a pair of white shoes with this. And they say, but more, if you complete both challenges, and there's 2 challenges with this, you'd get one of these crates, and there's a whole bunch of different things inside of that crate. So without getting into the specifics of what this challenge actually was, because this is a one-week thing, it's already happened, is this something that they should continue doing? And is this something that maybe a game like Battlegrounds can pull from? Some type of weekend only. I mean, you've got the most amount of active players in your game typically will be Friday afternoon into Sunday evening most of the time. Yeah. Is this something that more of these games need to do? Is this something that works?
Yeah, because, well, first of all, this is bringing in the legacy crates, bringing in some of the most popular items.
Mm-hmm.
You can only get it for top 10.
Yep.
It gives people a reason to play, other than, because we went out and got like the Halloween mask and just you ran around trying to find some pointless zombie to kill him. And it wasn't because you were good. It was just, we need to spend 15 minutes to do something. This is really, during that time, is going to cause people to really compete. With a game like this, though, what's frustrating is with the hacker levels, I don't think this is a great game to do it on, because you're just going to because these people know they can sell these skins. It becomes a money-making thing. So hackers will turn on their hacks, go in there, get these things, get in top 10 constantly, get the crate, and then sell the skins. That's my concern with King of the Kill.
Mm-hmm.
Another game, let's say Battlegrounds, being that I think that they would have a better time dealing with it. I don't know. I like the idea, but my big worry is that it encourages hackers to play at that particular time.
Okay. Yeah, that's a valid concern.
It is. I mean, it's a great idea, but if a hacker knows that they have an opportunity to get something they can sell, are they going to go at that particular time then?
Yeah. So
I mean, you might as well save your hacks and not get banned for, make sure you can play this time.
Yeah, I think in general, this is a good concept. Again, concept and implementation are two different things. Sometimes great concepts get implemented. They don't work as great as you thought. With this type of short event, if they do this religiously, like twice a month or something, and get in a schedule the first Saturday and the third, the first weekend and the second weekend, or the first weekend and the third weekend of every month, you can expect some type of challenge thing, something to do. Again, and we're even talking about this with our board game day, which we're doing the second Saturday of every month. You have to condition people. If you want somebody to show up,
consistency is key.
Our Friday night, I mean, look at this, Brian. We've been doing this show for 122 weeks. People just instinctively know. People don't have to set a reminder on their calendar to know that Tuesday our show is going to be on. If they've watched this show for the past year, it's just something you do. It's the same thing with me. It's the same thing with you. You just know what you're doing on Tuesday will stop when close to the start of this show. And you just have to, it's essentially brainwashing. You have to just brainwash people into doing the same thing over and over again. And with that, with that being the case, if H1Z1 can, 2 or 3 times a month schedule these same things, first, third weekend, do this, we're going to do this thing, you're going to get these things, it's going to work. It's going to work because you're going to train people to, all right, hey, I'm going to set this weekend
this is more
free.
likely to get a group like us on.
Exactly. That's my point.
We're like, man, we're tired of the same thing dealing with hackers. But if we're like, hey, let's get a group together and we'll try to get a crate.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's the kind of thing that will bring them in. I think this is only for single player, but even if they brought them into, groups, like that would get us to get some groups together and say, hey, let's play for an hour or two. Couple hours, get however many games in, and let's see if we can get some top 10 and maybe win a crate. I think that's good. Now it says, so it says solos, duos, and fives.
Yeah,
so
it says all game modes.
Solos and duos and fives.
Yeah.
So I think that if they do this enough, like we'd be able to get people to get back into the game, because it's been really tough getting into. I haven't been wanting to play. And they're going to have to do something to bring people back from Battlegrounds, because that's where everybody's at. Yeah. So, yeah, and consistency, because that's whenever I have people say, hey, I'm thinking about getting into podcasting. And I say, well, just remember, the most important thing is consistency. And if you do anything long enough, you'll start bringing people in. People will do it. So I think that's been a big hang up of Daybreak, is that they're kind of like, a child, in that they see something, they go for it. They're like, oh, and then they get distracted and they go for the next thing. What things have been consistent with H1Z1?
Not much. That's the problem. That's the problem. Not much. Not much.
Yeah. And I think they have to get into a pattern of having something that lasts more than a month or two.
I agree.
They've
I
put
agree
server
completely.
type, they've done all these different things, but they haven't been consistent. It always goes away.
I would venture to say consistency is single-handedly the biggest problem H1Z1 King of the Kill and H1Z1 Just Survive have. Without it, all of their other downfalls, consistency on a consistent wipe schedule. I mean, we've seen the roadmap come and go. There's just no consistency, and that really turns off a lot of people, me included. So it is what it is with that, but it's a fact. It's the way it is. People love consistency. So if you can give it to them, they'll most likely hop on it. So that's so
we'll see. I mean, maybe this will be something different for them.
Yeah, for sure. And to just know, because for example, they released this post last Friday. So if you already had, for example, I already had plans for the weekend. I graduated last weekend.
Yeah.
Not that
that's the thing is they've never announced things very far in advance, or they do something, they release it like 2 or 3 days before it happens.
Yeah, like the holiday
Like
events.
holidays.
Yeah.
So I think with them that's something that if they could get into a pattern of people being able to, because that's the thing is if we changed our show every single week and we did it on a different day of the week, every single time, people would not know what to, they just wouldn't show up live. They'd only listen to the downloaded versions because we've changed it one day and we've had people complain to us because we did it a day earlier without announcing it.
Yeah.
People rely on it.
No, Brian, it wasn't even earlier. It wasn't even a day earlier. It was just earlier in the day. We did it like 6 hours earlier than we normally do. And it was crazy. Yep. And I can understand why people were pissed off about it because their consistency was broken. They scheduled the time.
See, and that caused us to be more concerned about that.
Well, I mean, it is.
That's
yeah. I mean, it doesn't. But again, I mean, and then part of this other thing too is people have to understand that things happen. And it was great hearing from ARK's perspective the same thing. Sometimes stuff happens, and you can't always hit the launch. Or you can't always hit the release. So you can be pissed off about stuff or whatever, but you've got to also understand that sometimes things are uncontrollable all over the place.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. Now we do also have a King of the Kill update. Now, fortunately, I guess you could say most of these things we've already talked about. So let me run through the things we've already talked about first. We talked about a couple of the new POIs, essentially, new little things that they're adding in. They've got a set of houses, some type of container yard, and some shopping centers. So we've already talked about all of these. The same thing we've talked about the new versus the old with shadows. We covered that a couple weeks ago. Same thing with vehicle skins. Now these vehicles will spawn with different colors, and you can set your preferred skin color for one of these objects or one of these cars. When you hop into them, it'll change. And then some of the things with the UI and bug fixes and so on and so forth. So we've already talked about most of this stuff, but a couple of the things I do want to highlight is that Skirmish is back. That's officially back in the game, and what this is you spawn it's snipers and shotguns. That's it. So if you're somebody like me who is awful with the sniper and you have to use the shotgun, all of your combat is close combat. If you're really good with the sniper, you can sit around and have some longer combat fighting. People really like this, and I'm not really sure why it went away for so long. Because I thought it was a cool game mode. I really enjoyed playing it because I'm not the best when it comes to long range gunfights. I choke on long range gunfights. So for shotgun versus shotgun, I think I've got better odds to do that. Same thing, the shotgun changes we talked about with the pellet size and the spread. All of those things are in this patch. Brian, this is a huge update. There's a lot of things in here. Specifically, I think the shotgun is the biggest thing. The way that they're completely changing how the shotgun acts, performs, responds to the environment and when being shot. So,
well, this will be interesting. And like with the skirmishes, that's something that I think there's a tablet game that my wife and I play, and the games would last probably about 15 minutes to 20 minutes per game, maybe a little bit longer if depending on the game. And that game, the tough thing is it was hard to know. It's like, all right, can I sit down and play this game for this long? And so they implemented different game modes that would make it much faster. So you have a 6-minute game that's still just as fun. You have one that lasts about 10 minutes to 15 minutes, and then you have the longer one. And that got so many more people playing it because you didn't have to dedicate, or you knew that it wasn't going to be the same game over and over again. I think that they can really get somewhere if they keep bringing variety, or maybe even have one where you don't know what the game is going to be. And you load into the game and it picks at the beginning, like, a little spinning wheel. And it's like, okay, we're going to do shotties and snipers. We're going to do pistols and, whatever.
Bows. I would pay good money to see that. Pistols and bows.
Yeah. I think that you could really get people playing, and it would be much more exciting on Twitch because that's kind of that, oh man, we got to play with this. Like that to me seems like it'd be so much more fun, and it seems like it wouldn't be that hard to do.
Well, and see, here's a great idea for it, and we're not going to be able to get to all the stories we wanted to get to today, obviously. Yeah. But my idea with this, Brian, is the way that I become better at using a gun in a game is being forced to use it. That's the only... I don't snipe in any game. Call of Duty, Battlefield, this game, Battlegrounds. I don't snipe because I suck at it. I'm not good. But when I'm forced to use a sniper or a shotgun, if I need to kill somebody from long range, I am forced to use the sniper. So overall, that game mode, if I play it, if I choose to play it, it will make me an all-around better player at this game. Because I will never get a sniper in King of the Kill. It is useless. It completely useless to me. It's just as good as having a pistol, in my opinion. Because I will not hit a shot that I will not kill somebody with it. Yep. So I
think that this would get people more used to all the guns. Because as you said, you avoid certain guns because you're like, man, I just have no experience with it.
Yeah.
Without going and playing a bunch of Just Survive, like how many people are really going to shoot the sniper that often in the game? Probably hard. Some people, you probably have some people that have been playing that have never shot a sniper in the game.
Yeah.
Some of the more recent people.
You can completely...
I think they could really make it more competitive as well.
Yeah, they could completely knock
the game of everybody.
They could knock it out of the park with I love your idea of some roulette wheel going around in a circle at the spawn in. There's a whole bunch of different types of possible game modes, and you just randomly get one. If you don't like it and you're really that, you can back out if you want to be like that. But you just play through it, or there should be some penalty if you back out or something. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is that, I mean, speaking of that tablet game, if someone exits after they see either what character they got or something like that, it kind of marks them down to where they then have a delay when they go into the next game. Like you punish them somehow. And I think that this game is going to have to do that if they're going to try to get anything more than just the standard play style that we've seen so far.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. I hope. I mean, I don't hate King of the Kill.
No.
I enjoy it, but I don't like the hackers, and it's been so frustrating. But that's something that we've always held, that if certain things got better, we would come back.
Absolutely.
Now, do we want to do? We haven't discussed Game of the Week.
I will not be around. I will be out of town.
Okay. So should we do a King of the Kill Game of the Week?
I don't know. If you want to do King of the Kill, I may be able to run that on my laptop. Maybe I'll be around.
Yeah. Let's do King of the Kill. I mean, because we haven't done King of the Kill in a long time.
Yeah.
And just kind of a show that I don't hate you, King of the Kill. We'll do a King of the Kill week.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay, so this Friday we will do King of the Kill. So if you have King of the Kill, make sure you're there. We do it 9:00 Eastern, right?
Yes.
We'll probably start. That's the thing, is we'll probably start a little bit earlier. So
yeah, there you go. So
yeah, we'll figure it out.
I don't. Unfortunately, we've got to end the show a little bit early here. I do have a commitment. But I do want to cover quick housekeeping things. Then I want to hear tip of the week. We'll be back with current players probably in 2 weeks. I've got a couple things to explain. So first of all, Cosmic Encounters, Brian, went off phenomenally well for our board game a night. We had 2 players that came in.
It can be a somewhat difficult game to figure out in the beginning, and that's how a lot of these games will be. The first time we play through something will be the longest. But I think then as we start repeating games, people know how to play it, and it'll be really fun. We'll maybe get a couple games in on a night.
We had a couple people buy Tabletop Simulator right before the game night started to jump in on that. We are currently working out the details for the next game, but we do have the date already. It's going to be the second Saturday of every month. So in June, which will be our next planned game day, we'll do stuff in between it on Saturdays and Sundays when people are around. But our next plan will be June 10th. So if you want to mark that down in your calendars for a possible board game night, June 10th, I'll get with Saul and Brian. We'll figure out what game we want to do, and the details will be in the board game channel in Discord. There'll be a link to the game, and it'll tell you to RSVP for it and let us know that you're going to show up. It went off very well. I really enjoyed setting that time aside and doing that.
I actually had a viewer or listener give us a copy to give away at some point.
Oh,
So I
awesome.
wasn't sure how we wanted to do that.
We will do that before. We'll do that before next month's thing.
I just wanted to make sure it went to somebody who's actually going to play.
Yeah,
Because
we'll give it away.
since we're going to be doing this.
Yeah, we'll give it away we'll give it away on Tuesday, June 6th, which will be the week before our board game night. So.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll
very good.
Yeah, and we'll be discussing the details on that and come up with those details in the future.
So do we want to do you want me to announce the next giveaway?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead and announce that, and I've got a couple of other things I want to cover. So while Brian gets okay, do you have that?
No, go ahead. Go ahead and,
okay.
And I'll get all
so a couple of other things I want to note. Next week's show, I'm going to be remote. So it may be a little bit of a shorter show. It may not include all of the typical audio or visual cues that you are accustomed to. But we will be here next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern, doing the live show. Hopefully there'll be audio and video. I'm planning on it. But things change last second. So nevertheless, it'll be a remote show. I'll be down in North Carolina for that. But yeah, looking forward to that next Tuesday. Other than that, don't think I have any other housekeeping things. But what's the giveaway here?
All right, so we're doing Kentucky Route Zero. And this is a very positive rating. It was put out in 2013, but it's an adventure point and click, atmospheric indie 2D. Has 5 different chapters to it, 5 different parts to the story. Got very good ratings. So, and it will run on an older computer. So it runs on a 1 gigahertz, 1 gigabyte of RAM, DirectX 9.
Damn.
So if you have an older computer or a laptop, I mean, that's an excellent thing.
Yes, it is.
I have a hard time finding games that, because my laptop's not the latest, greatest gaming laptop, finding games that will run on my laptop. And this is the type of game that would. So it's Kentucky Route Zero, ! Giveaway. Looks like a lot of fun. It's got a very good atmosphere, the atmosphere to it. And it's a good storytelling game. So
there you go.
Encourage you to type ! Giveaway.
All right. Do we have a quick tip of the week?
Yes. So tip of the week is where I go through and either I'll give a tip about a specific game or maybe a general gaming tip. This week, since we were discussing ARK so much, it is based on ARK. So this is tip of the week. So now it was discussed a little bit in the interview, but with ARK, let's say you're unhappy with the latest update or change that's happened in the game. One thing that you can do is go to the mod, the mod market, and most likely someone has made a mod that reverses whatever change they've made. So you can really customize your game. Now, this won't affect official servers. But let's say you play on a private server, there's a good chance you could find a private server that has, for instance, maybe undoing the flyer nerf. Maybe you want to be able to level up the flying speed of your flyers. There will be servers out there that have done this. So you can go to the Steam Workshop, and then if you search for ARK Survival Evolved, on there they have a large list of different mods that you can get. Now, it's, as he was talking about, there's a lot of variety in this. They have everything from dino trackers, where you actually have a cell phone that you carry around in game, and you can put what kind of dino you're looking for, and it has kind of a game for tracking down a dinosaur. To things that will change your base buildings. You can have different kinds of doors and different kinds of walls. This is something where certain people had made mods that became very popular, like the extendable bridges. That's something they're going to be putting into the game that started out as a mod. So if you're looking to really customize your game, or maybe reverse some of the experience, or maybe even check out totally new maps, because that's something that's in here as well. You have the ability to load maps other than the official ones. They have ones that people have been building inside of the game, and you can go and try them out. People will launch servers, and these all will run So if you run a server, you can actually load these. So everyone else, for instance, we have a server, I can put whatever mods I want on that, and it will download them when people load in, and everybody will be able to play with those particular mods. So I would encourage you to check it out. You go inside of Steam, go to community, click workshop. On the front page, you will see ARK there because it is one of the most popular ones. And then you can start browsing. They let you sort inside of the workshop by most popular of the day, most popular of the week, most popular in the last 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, the top rated of all time. And then they have the most recent ones if you want to see what people are putting out right now, and then the most subscribed. I feel that the most subscribed is probably the most accurate because it shows how many people are actually using it at one moment, not based on ratings. So try it out. They have thousands of different mods in there that you can do. I think 2,989 mods are in there right now. So, and it will change the UI, it will change the weapons. You can get totally new weapons, just a lot of different things that you can do. So I encourage you to go check it out. We'll have a link directly to it if you want to go there inside of our show notes. But that is tip of the week.
Alrighty, thank you very much for that, Brian. Let's do the giveaway here and then wrap it up.
All right, so no one's entered. I can't give it. Well, okay, so actually we had somebody enter. Let me see if it'll open.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it won't. No, I mean, okay. So Black Asian Jesus, he has one. So I was gonna say no one's entered for it. But he has. It's just because he doesn't have enough points. So I'll give it to him.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
So
I could just randomly give it out to somebody.
I mean, you could, but all right. Let's. Good Lord.
But I'll give it to him.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Brian. Where can we go ahead and wrap this up? Where can people find you?
Yeah, if you want to find me at Boise Computer on Twitter, and or you can go check out my blog, biteoftech.com. It has a lot of different articles that I've written. Also, if you'd like to go check out our website, infectionpodcast.com, join our Discord group, join our Steam group. Make sure you follow us if you are going to be on the road and you maybe catch us on YouTube or catch us live. I would encourage you to go there and find us on your favorite podcatcher app. So we have if you go on the right-hand side, actually there's links to a bunch of different types, but if you just go inside of whatever app you use and search for Infection Podcast, we should pull up there. If we don't, make sure that you let us know because we should be listed everywhere. And if we're not, we'd like to know so that we can manually list in those places. So if you don't, contact at infectionpodcast.com. That will get us a message, or you can go to our contact form on our website and just let us know, hey, you're not listed on this site or on this this app. So that would really help us out because then we can make sure we actually get listed everywhere. So that is pretty much it.
Yes, and of course, thanks to everybody, and of course, thanks to the ARK team for making the interview happen. I'm sure we'll have somebody back in the near future to talk about some new changes with that. If you are new here, you can check out this show live every Tuesday night right here on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Infection Podcast. And of course, we will be here next week with that as well. Game night, game of the week is going to be H1Z1 King of the Kill. Hopefully you'll join our Discord for that. All of those links.
If you uninstall it, make sure you reinstall it.
Yeah. All of those links will be on our website, infectionpodcast.com. for that. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for another episode of Infection, the Survival Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week.